Hi, Holly here. So today I want to talk about accountability. So accountability is being responsible for one's own actions and the things that they say and do, or the directions that they give, or the work that they push off onto other people, or put off onto other people. So with accountability, I have witnessed plenty of times, military wise and on the nursing home end, of somebody making a bad call, making a bad judgment call, making a bad decision, and when it comes time to own up to those actions or to be responsible or accountable for the things that's happened as a result of your decision making, the person that should be held accountable isn't always the stand up guy or gal that says, hey, yeah, no, I made that decision, or, well, I made that call, or, yes, I made a mistake. I must not have realized that I was not giving the right medication or something like that. When it comes down to somebody being accountable for their actions, on our end, administrators in a building, we have to hold people responsible and accountable for the decisions that they make. So, us as administrators, we have department heads underneath us. We have, maintenance activities. You have the whole nursing department. You have dietary. You have social services, marketing. You've got the business office, human resources, scheduling. There's tons of department heads underneath us that we have to make sure that they're running their departments efficiently, effectively. Military wise, I've seen plenty of people make a bad decision and then they push it off to a subordinate or push it off onto somebody else or say, well, so and so was supposed to do X, Y, and Z. Well, us as leaders in a leadership position, we have to know when we need to be held responsible for our own actions, and we have to know when to hold others accountable for their actions as well. So, as administrators, we are supposed to know what's going on inside of our building, every department, all day long, what's happening, how they're functioning, what the issues are, what the problems are going to become. Having to know everything that's going on in your departments, in your building. That last video that I made where I talked about communication, following up, and following through, that's a big part of knowing what's going on in each one of your departments and what's going on with each one of your managers. So if something happens that's going to have a negative outcome or effect on the building, staff, residents, survey, whatever the case is, if there's going to be a negative outcome for any of that stuff, you have to make sure that you find the person that did the wrong thing or said the wrong thing or filled out the wrong paperwork or sent the wrong report. You have to know who's done those things in order to fix it and correct it moving forward so that it doesn't happen again. That all seems like pretty common sense stuff. When I say it like that, that makes a lot of sense. Oh yeah, whoever messed up, just make sure they fix it and moving forward and they don't do it again. Well, here's the big problem. You don't know what you don't know. So if somebody messed up something and us that talk directly to the surveyors or us that actually deal directly with it and the plan of correction, if you get cited for something, everybody has to be aware of that. Whenever you have a QAPI or maybe monthly in services, or maybe you're doing a weekly in service because you got cited on something, you have to make sure that the staff that messed up really know and understand how to correct it moving forward. So that's a part of holding people accountable for their actions and responsible for their reactions to things. Obviously, citations are never a good thing, but that's also a chance for you to see what the issues are. That way you know, hey, this needs fixed. So to move forward, we've got to make sure everybody's got the right education, the right tools, the right everything in place so that you can move forward. Just talked about surveys and what happens if you get cited on a survey, the disconnect that kind of falls in there if we're not holding people accountable for the things that they do. So quality of care. If you get cited for quality of care, that's a pretty big umbrella for things that's in there. I just opened my watermelon book and looked in it real quick, just to see. There's about 20 things that fall underneath here, and one of them is very specifically bed rails. You know that bed rails isn't just a person-specific thing. So typically, maintenance, in my experience, maintenance puts bed rails on and off, but they need to know to put them on and off there through the nursing department. They also need to make sure that there's an order in place for it and that it's the right type of bed and the right type of rail that goes on it. So if you got cited for specifically for bed rails, and we do education, we have to, let the staff know what happened. We have to tell them how to fix it moving forward, and we come up with a good plan. Hey, nursing department, as soon as we know that the resident needs bed rails, we have to make sure that we notify maintenance, whether you have like a work order system or you have a book system that you use, or however it happens, you need to make sure that the people know the right process along the way in order to get to the actually putting the bed rails on the bed for the resident to make them safe. So if we know where the disconnect was, specifically who it was with, we need to go to those people to make sure that they understand what needs to happen. So nobody likes being told that they're wrong, and there's a right way and a wrong way to approach people to let them know that they're wrong. So when we do get cited for things and we have to approach staff, we are all completely aware that we are overworked, underpaid, we are stretched thin. This isn't an easy industry to be in these days, so we have to be cautious in how we talk to people. I get it, everybody is stressed out, everybody is working hard, long days, wearing PPE all day long, having to take care of sick people, well, maybe sicker than usual. So it becomes really tough to run up to somebody and say, hey, we got cited for this. Hey, you were wrong. This was your resident. This happened. These are the things that went wrong here. This is what we need to do to fix it moving forward. So this big piece of accountability for it, whoever dropped the ball on those bed rails not getting to where they needed to be, we need to make sure that they understand what happened, why it went that way, and how to fix it moving forward. If there's a problem with accountability on the person that did the wrong thing, we're just going to have to learn how to approach that person. Maybe they're having a rough day, maybe they really are stretched thin, maybe they picked up extra shifts and it just really slipped their mind about their process or your company's process and how to put that in there. There's different things that we would need to do to try to make sure that they understand that it can't happen again. So accountability comes in there of the person accepting that they're wrong. If you make the wrong decision, if you make the wrong call, if your department heads are making the wrong calls on things, or if something happens and they're not notifying the right way, if the water heater goes out, they realize there's no hot water in the building, yet they don't do anything with it right away, that could be a big issue. So if somebody drops the ball and doesn't call and notify the maintenance guy, maybe you have a process where they notify the director of nursing, maintenance, and the administrator. None of those phone calls were made. That's a big deal, and you need to make sure that the department heads understand that the staff know what to do. That's kind of borderline on emergency preparedness. So the staff really need to be aware of if there's no hot water in the building, that's a pretty big deal. So us as administrators, or us in a leadership type position inside of a nursing home, we really need to know that if we make a mistake, we own up to it, we acknowledge it, and we have a process to fix it moving forward. So obviously you're not going to, get a t-shirt made that said, hey, I made this mistake, watch me grow. You're going to make sure that the people that were affected by it, or the people that were there when you made the wrong decision, or the people that were around whenever you made that call, that you let them know, or that you kind of follow back up with it and just say, hey, that wasn't the right thing that I did there, or I made that wrong call. Make sure that you help me remember in the future that we're not going to do it that way anymore. Or that there's some sort of ownership. There's some sort of ownership about that process. That way it doesn't happen again and you can fix it moving forward. If it's something that you've done wrong and you have to call your regional boss and say, hey, by the way, we've got this issue going on. This is what I thought we should have done about it. It turns out that wasn't the brightest thing to do, so now we've got another issue that we're dealing with. So if you own that right away and you don't blame that on any of your other staff, instead of saying something along the lines of, oh, maintenance really messed up, he made a bad decision, or the social worker did it this way, so I'm telling you what she did wrong. If it's your problem, own it and fix it moving forward. So if you show, as a leader, if you're showing that you can be accountable for your own actions, and you show that you have that consistency to admit it when you make a mistake, your staff will be better apt to do the same thing as well. Typically, they follow what the leader does. Unless you're really, really messing up, and then they can really see it's a night and day thing of, we definitely don't want to do that, or they're saying the wrong thing to state, or they're not treating families with respect, or whatever the case may be. Your staff will tend to kind of react how you do and kind of follow your lead with certain things. So another piece that kind of goes hand in hand with that is consistency. So if you're consistently being the same way with your staff, you're treating them with, respect, and then you're making sure that they know if you make a mistake, you're going to own up to it, you're going to correct it, and you're going to move forward. They see that it's okay to make mistakes. Not that they're always good, but that it's okay to make a mistake if you accept it, own it, and then you move forward from it, and it doesn't happen again. So the consistency with that piece is just making sure that you're fair across the board, you're firm with the staff when you have to be, but then you also, praise and make sure that they have the tools that they need. And there's all the fun things that go along with it that usually like HR or like the staffing coordinator will do to make sure that the staff have like dress up days or fun things. Talk about that in a little bit later video. But the consistency piece of it is making sure that the staff know what you expect of them and what they can expect out of you. Let's say that you have a staff member that is, constantly late to work. They work for a shift. They're always coming in late, whether it's 10, 15, 20 minutes late. HR's tried talking to them. They're kind of working their way through the write-up process. That's something that you want to be aware of and you want to be involved with at some point. So maybe you want to sit down and have a conversation with that individual, with their HR rep there, and try to figure out what's going on. Now, once you bring them in your office and close the door, the rest of the staff really don't care what happens behind that door. So if that staff member tells you that they've got daycare issues or they've got something going on in the morning that's making them, habitually late all the time, what do? Do you write that staff member up and work them through the process of termination? Or do you change their work schedule and maybe instead of like a 6 to 2, you do a 7 to 3? I know that's not always feasible with some buildings, depending on your structure and how you're set up. But you've got to, kind of weigh the employee themselves. Are they a decent employee? Would you like to keep them? Do they provide great care? Are they a good member of the team? Are they themselves a good leader that can get people, kind of rally the workers out there? So if something, you got a really rough day, maybe you're a little short-staffed. Not that ever happens in healthcare. But if you're a little short-staffed, they're one of the go-getters that can run out there and say, all right, let's just get this done. Let's just make sure that we're, doing these things the right way. So if they're a good staff member that you want to try to hang on to and retain, you're going to try to work with them the best you can. Like I said, your company policies are however it is that you guys need to work it through. But just keep in mind, do you really want to lose a good employee over them having some personal things going on at home? So like I was saying, once you get them in your office and you close your door, those other workers out there don't really know what happens with the conversation that you have with them. And sometimes they quite frankly don't care. So if you end up changing that employee's work schedule from 7 to 3, then maybe the rest of the workers, if it's not a union building, maybe the rest of the workers will kind of wonder and want to know what's going on or why they get special treatment or why they get this, that, and the other. That's one of those things that you have to make sure that you manage well inside of your office, because if you're telling this employee that you're changing their work hours to accommodate their life schedule, yet they're not a good employee, they call off regularly, they're very well known for not taking the trash out at the end of their shift or not emptying certain laundry bins or doing certain things, it will look like it's kind of a reward for the employee that's not really doing the best. So maybe you need to have an additional conversation with that employee. Look, if we change your work hours to accommodate your schedule, we're going to really need you to step up. We're going to really need you to show up and really show out to your coworkers and let them know that you're trying to be the best employee that you can, because we're working with you and changing your schedule. Obviously, there's a lot more that goes into it than just that, but you're showing that you're able to help employees work through things. You're being a little bit flexible. Like I said, all of this depends on if your company policies and procedures would allow it. But you want to make sure that consistency, that you will treat the next coworker or the next employee that comes in that maybe has an issue, you've got to open that up and treat them the same way. It can't be a favoritism thing. It can't just be because this employee has kids or this employee has, certain things going on. You've got to be able to work that through with all of your employees. Now I get it. You can't change everybody on the first shift. If it's a 6 to 2 shift, you can't change everybody's shift from 7 to 3 and have an hour gap where there's no people in there. So if you get down and you have a really good scheduling system, maybe they have a third shifter that can stay till 7 and kind of cover that. Maybe there's some sort of snowball effect that would cause a second shifter to work instead of a 2 to 10, maybe a 3 to 11, and then you've got the 11 to 7. That's the master planning that happens back behind closed doors when you guys are going through with your scheduler, making sure that everything's covered and you do have that coverage. But like I said, you've got to be consistent with all staff members once you open that door to allow special treatment of one person. So thanks for watching. If you have any comments, questions, or concerns, make sure you email me or leave a comment below. Make sure you hit that button and subscribe. Thanks a lot.